Hi everyone, I'm Sandy and welcome to my channel Sandy's Happy Plants. I make videos all about houseplants and houseplant care, and today I'll be talking about snake plants and how to keep them healthy and happy. So most of us are familiar with snake plants. They look like this, these long plants with the long spiky leaves, and you can find them everywhere from malls to stores to offices, and generally they're a pretty low maintenance plant, but there are still some things that you need to know to keep them healthy and happy and to grow the best snake plant that you can grow. So let's talk about a few of those things. So the first thing I want to talk about is light and lighting conditions. It's a general misconception that snake plants don't need a lot of light and that they are low light plants and that they can pretty much thrive in darkness. And that's not really completely true. While it is true that they can survive in a darker spot in your home, they will not thrive as much as they will in a bright spot. So generally, they like a bright indirect light spot, just like most other tropical plants that we keep as houseplants. And you can also put them in direct sun as well. Maybe not into boiling hot, scorching sun with no ventilation. The leaves might get a little scorched. I think I have a few, maybe this one even. This one I had in a window in my sunroom in the summer, and it got a little bit sunburned. It has a little bit of damage. I don't know if you can see that on the leaves here, but also the very bright light in the sunroom also made this beautiful variegation here on these leaves. So that's another thing that the sun does that is good. So basically, when they're in a brighter spot, they tend to push out more growth and they grow way faster, and they also get a little bit more variegation on them. So like more color, they look more vibrant, they look more healthy, and they just grow a lot faster. I know that a lot of people put them in a darker spot in their homes, and that's fine. If they get a little bit of light, at least, then they'll be okay. If you have like this perfect spot in your house that you really want to put a snake plant and it'd be perfect for that snake plant, what you can do is supplement the light by adding a grow light. And nowadays there's all sorts of awesome grow lights. They don't even look like grow lights. I know it used to be just the purple and pink grow lights that just look like, I don't know, not too pleasant. But nowadays, you can even just get grow bulbs that you can put into a regular lighting fixture, and they don't even look like grow lights at all. So you can just hang one right above or point one at the plant, and that will help with the light. I used to have this cylindrica on my fireplace, and it doesn't really get any light there, and it didn't do anything for like 4 years or something. I didn't even know if it was alive. I actually thought it was a fake plant because it did nothing. It just basically looked like this, these long stalks here, and they didn't change, they didn't do anything, nothing happened. And then I actually transferred it into a window into my sunroom for the summer, and all of a sudden it got new growth right here, and there's a little one coming. I don't know if you guys can see that right there. How cute is that? So that just proves it that they actually do like bright light. And where I had it was east facing, morning sun, but it got pretty bright and pretty hot in there. And yeah, it liked it. This one's a little crunchy, this leaf right here, but I think that's because one of my cats was chewing on it. Cats. And then this moonlight one that I already showed you guys, when I first got it, it was more like this color, kind of dark, and it wouldn't grow much, and I had it in a low light spot. And same with this one, I put it outside in the sunroom for the summer, in that east facing spot, and it pushed out all this new growth here, all this light colored growth here in one summer, just by putting it into a brighter spot. So the next thing I want to talk about is water and watering for your snake plants. So snake plants do not need a lot of water, and you can get away with not watering them for a long time. These guys, I water maybe maybe once every 2 weeks. And it also kind of depends where you have them, like in what kind of light you have them in. So like in a really bright lighting condition, and if it's hot, they do need a lot more water. So like for instance, this one that I've talked about already, when I had it in the hot, bright sunroom, I would actually need to water this every few days. Every 2 to 3 days, I would water this because it would get thirsty. But generally, if you have it in a like bright indirect condition, where it gets like some morning sun, but nothing else, just bright indirect, watering once a week, once every 2 weeks in the summer is probably fine. See, they have these these leaves. It's almost like a succulent. They are not a succulent, but they're almost like a succulent. Whereas, oh, here's my cat, Truffles. Truffy, okay, sit down. I can't get rid of her in my videos. She just needs to be in my videos. All right, moving on. Where were we? These the leaves, they store water in the leaves for a very long time, so they don't need to be watered that often, and they actually don't like it. They tend to get root rot if they sit in moist soil, so you never want to keep the soil moist for these plants. Okay, so a good rule of thumb is to let them dry out completely before watering them again. So if you look at the soil and it's completely dry, this one, I think this one needs to get water soon. It's pretty light. I can probably give it watering today, but it's completely dry in there. I don't even remember the last time I watered this, honestly. Might have been a month ago, I don't know. But that's usually when I water them, when I don't remember the last time I watered them. If I have them in the house in the winter. And that kind of is the rule of thumb, like when it's dry, water it. And like I said, it also depends on where you have it situated. So if it's in a north-facing window and it never gets any sun, then you can get away with watering it maybe once a month, once every 2 months. If it's in a bright, like south-facing window, then you have to probably water it once a week. Otherwise, once every 2 weeks, or just keep your eye on it. If it's dry, water it. If it's wet, don't water it. And never ever let it sit in a wet pot with no drainage. Also, a really cool trick is if you look at the leaves, if they get kind of wrinkly, then you know it's time to water. Because like I said before, they store water. The leaves, they're kind of like a sponge, and they store water. And once they release the water, once they go through all the water and take it up, so to speak, they get kind of wrinkly. They kind of shrink, and so it makes them kind of wrinkly. I don't know if you can see that right here. See how it's kind of wrinkly? This plant doesn't look too great. I don't know what's going on with it. It's kind of, I don't know. I'll probably plant it in with this one because it's the same kind, just to make it look more full, because this one's kind of, it's kind of dinky. I think I had this in a really low light condition. That's why it doesn't look so great. This is kind of a good example of what it looks like. They get kind of droopy and not too good looking when you have them in too low of a light. But yeah, so these wrinkles you see here, when you see that, that's when it needs water, because it means that it's getting dehydrated. So that's another cool trick. So one really fun fact about snake plants is that they only open up their stomata at night to release the water into the plant, and they do this so that it prevents them from losing too much moisture during the daytime if they're in let's say sunny conditions. But the plants actually have developed in this way to only open their stomata, which are basically the pores of the plant. They're tiny microscopic pores that line pretty much every surface of the plant, and they hold on to the water in the plant, and they only open them at night. That's cool, hey? And I don't know if you've heard this, but snake plants usually give off more oxygen at night. So they take up the carbon dioxide and process it and turn it into oxygen at nighttime, and that is because the stomata are open at nighttime. That's how that happens. Isn't that cool? That's amazing. So the next thing I want to talk about is potting mix and container that you keep your snake plants in. So snake plants like to be in a very well draining potting mix, like a cactus mix or succulent mix. I like to mix some orchid bark in there as well, just for some extra chunky texture, just to get more air to the roots, because they do like a very aerated, loose kind of potting mix. And so I'll show you what that looks like. It's kind of like very, oops, sorry for the noise. Oh, look at these roots in here. Yeah, that looks good. But you can see the soil or the potting mix is very, very, you know, chunky and light, and not a lot of organic material. They do not like a lot of organic material that compacts and gets kind of waterlogged. They like a kind of loamy, sandy soil, where they grow naturally. They grow in that kind of nutrient, not a very nutrient rich soil, basically. So yeah, so cactus soil, succulent soil, or cactus mix or succulent mix, mixed with some orchid bark in there is perfect for them. As for the container that they like to be in, they do like to be in terracotta pots, because terracotta dries out faster, and it also helps not to overwater the plant, because the terracotta sucks away the moisture from the soil. So that's why they do like to be in terracotta. I don't have any of mine in terracotta, I don't think. No, I have all of mine in plastic, but that's okay, because I make sure that it all drains out the bottom. So what I do is I have them in the plastic nursery pots with a decorative pot over top, and I just make sure that they have lots of drainage on the bottom. So when I water them, I just put them under the sink and I let everything drain out the bottom, all the water drain out the bottom before I put them back in here, and that way they don't get waterlogged. Another thing to consider is that they actually like to be crowded in the pot. They like to be root bound. And what that means is that they like to be really tight in the pot. Lots of plants in one pot, like this one. You can see there's lots of plants in one pot together. They do not like to be lonely in the pot, like this one I showed you. This one looks really lonely. That's probably why he's not doing so good either, because he's kind of just lonely in there. So I'm gonna stick him in with that other one. But yeah, when you plant a snake plant, like let's say you have a propagation that you want to plant, like this little one right here, and it's really easy to plant these propagations actually. What you do is they have what's called a rhizome in there, and I can't show it to you right now because I'm not going to propagate this one. I'll make another video about this, but I'll tell you about it quickly. So this little plant right here, it's coming off of the mother plant here. Under the soil, there's what's called a rhizome, and you can actually just cut that, and then you just take this little plant and stick it in a new pot, and it will grow like magic. Anyways, but if you do want to do this, make sure you don't plant this into a very big pot. You just want to stick it in a pot that's just a little bit bigger than the actual plant. So if you have this little guy here, you just want to put it into a pot that's like about this big, like that. Just a little bit bigger than the plant, because they like to be snug like a bug in the pot. Yes. And the reason for that is that if they're in too big of a container, then they can't process all the water. So if you water, the container will just get full of water, and then the plant can't take up all that water, and it will get root rot eventually. And it'll just, you know, the soil in there, the potting mix in there will get too wet, and it'll start creating problems like root rot, like fungus gnats, all that kind of nasty stuff. So for them, it's better to have lots of plants in the same pot. So the last thing I want to talk about is fertilizer, or lack thereof, because the good news is that snake plants actually don't need a lot of fertilizer. I actually honestly never fertilize my snake plants, but if you really want to, you can use a 10-10-10 ratio fertilizer and just fertilize them twice a year, only in the summer, only in the spring and summer, not in the fall and winter, because that's kind of like a resting period for most plants. They just won't be able to take up the fertilizer in the winter, because they'll be resting and not really pushing out any new growth that much. But like I said, they don't really need it. Naturally, they grow in like very rocky, nutrient and not very nutrient rich soil. So nutrient poor soil, rocky, sandy, you know, there's not enough nutrients in there. So they actually don't really need it. Just like most cacti and succulents don't really need it. So once in a while, if you feel like your plant's not doing good, if it looks like kind of drab and lanky and it's not really doing much, give it a shot. Try a balanced fertilizer. I like to use liquid dirt. It's a great fertilizer because it's naturally occurring. It's non-toxic. It's non-toxic to pets or to humans. It's actually safe for fish and reptiles too, which is awesome. Liquid dirt is great. I'll link it in the comments below, or in the description of the video, just so you can buy it if you want to. But yeah, so if you want to use fertilizer, you can use that just twice a year, no more than that. But other than that, snake plants are pretty happy without it. Okay, so I hope these tips will help you to grow your snake plants healthy and happy and big and strong. And like always, if you have anything to add or any comments or questions for me, leave it in the comments below. And if you like my content, please like and subscribe to my channel so that you never miss an episode. In the meantime, stay happy, stay healthy, have fun with your plants. See you next time. Bye.